Your hair is wild. Everything about this is wild.
Nick, I'm pretty sure I've lost more hair than you, and you still look more bald than I
You
do.
want to suck my actual asshole? Suck every last inch of my actual
Compared
asshole.
to his fake asshole.
Yeah, I'll suck your fake one.
Welcome to the new episode of Drunken Jurors, where Nick literally doesn't shut the fuck up so we can start. But no, we're doing Drew Peterson this week. Given to me by both, actually, Adam and Nick, as this was something I didn't know about, and I live in Illinois.
Hell yeah.
We grew up with this.
Just on the opposite side of it.
This happened like 8 minutes away from Nick and
Yeah.
about 15 minutes away from me.
Yeah. So this is literally something that I grew up with. I saw the
Happened my whole life.
I saw the helicopters when I was a child. So when did
I
this
do
happen?
not.
What year was this?
2007?
2007. I would have been.
I thought it was 04. Something happened in 04.
That's when she died.
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
All right.
When she died,
7,
the other one
so
died.
I would have been.
No, the other one's missing. She's not
10?
dead.
I was 10 in
Just
2007.
missing for like almost 20 years now.
Yeah,
Not 20. I guess like 15, somewhere in there.
close enough.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
Well, I'm Jeff.
I'm Adam.
I'm someone. Yeah.
Nick literally hasn't said what his name is in like 8 episodes.
I know. It's become a new thing that I'm not a fan of.
I hate it every fucking time, and I tried to edit around it every single time. It is my least favorite thing. Of like I dread
I'm not
the
even.
first
I'm
5
not even
minutes.
doing it intentionally.
Yeah,
anymore.
I know. That's what makes it even worse. Is that you're just fucking stupid. Literally, there will be time I'll be like, Nick, you still haven't introduced yourself. And then you like segue into your introduction. It was like, I wish you would just say, oh, and I'm Nick. And then I could cut all of his stupid bullshit out of him not saying what his name is. But now I have to keep it.
I'm drinking. Well, I guess I'm going to start drinking this, but it's the Glenfiddich 14-year bourbon barrel reserved single malt Scotch, and also some Bush Diesel as usual.
I got I'm still drinking my apple rum and ginger ale mix stuff, but I got tired of pouring it into a glass, so I just mixed it in the bottle.
Nice. Should get a brown bag for it too. I got Camelot honey mead to replace the one that Adam drank.
On the
And-
last recording.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm back on my bullshit. I'm no longer house sitting.
Sober?
Was that canonical? House sitting. Yeah, that. I'm no longer drinking the good.
Not having a camera. That's what.
Yeah, that too. Hi.
It just
I
seems so
don't
much
see
better
you-
with the camera. Looking
Oh.
at just a name is so weird.
That's why I put my little post-it note, which I'm actually going to keep forever.
My mom got rid of Gustav.
What
was
in the
house sitting.
fuck?
Yeah, I actually don't know where Gustav is. My mom.
That chair does have a cowboy hat though, so we do have a new.
It does. Yeah.
We do have a new
Hold on.
fucking.
Oh, there is Snoopy behind him.
we
but-
do have Snoopy. And we have.
Hold on, Nick, you have to find out where Gustav is, and you needs to take
It
him.
needs to go on
Are-
that lamp directly behind your head right now.
Am I gonna have to establish a rescue mission for Gustav?
Yeah, not during the podcast though. Wait
Oh.
till
Yeah.
after the
Wait,
episode.
till I was about to get up, and then I realized we are in fact recording.
So my source is Drew Peterson, the Tribune Files by the Chicago Tribune. So basically, it's just a bunch of articles, like every article that they came out with during this entire thing, just put into different parts, basically.
So for me, I watched 2 biographies, read an article, and watched.
You mean documentaries? I don't think you can watch biographies.
You're right.
You're not trying hard enough.
All right, once you see my source, you'll understand my confusion. But okay, so I watched 2 documentaries, read an article, watched a interview, and then watched a movie. So I watched the Drew. It's just called Drew Peterson. from Biography, available on biography.com. And it was made before his trials, so it went all into his background and like just everything leading up to the trials. Then I watched I Lived with a Killer, which is a documentary from his kids' perspective. It's available on YouTube. It dealt with the whole thing, everything, but went more into it, Drew's character and his home life. Then I watched an interview called, where is it? Drew Peterson and Stacy Peterson by True Crime Daily's Crime Watch Daily. It's on YouTube. It is his sister-in-law being interviewed. It's like a 25-minute interview with his sister-in-law, talking about kind of more of an outside perspective of what happened. Then I read an article tied into that interview by True Crime Daily on their website. And then I didn't watch it fully, but I skipped around a bunch in it just to kind of get an idea of the movie. It's a Lifetime original movie called Drew Peterson Untouchable, starring Rob Lowe as Drew Peterson and Kaylee Cuoco of Big Bang. I don't know. It's spelt Cuoco. I'm looking at it, Nick. You can question me all you want.
I know.
It's spelt Cuoco.
Pretty sure it's Cuoco.
I don't give a shit, but she's from Big Bang Theory and she plays Stacy Peterson.
Mm-hmm. How was that movie?
Also, I mean, it was terrible. From what I saw, because I jumped around in it. It wasn't a good movie, but what I thought what they did do is the character, like the actors all did a really good job. The writing and the editing were not good.
For a hot second, can we talk about how much easier research papers would have been if we could have done them in fucking podcast form throughout school?
My school actually had us do that.
This would have been so fucking easy. We just give all of our sources beforehand, and then we're gonna go give a bunch. Well, I mean, we can't give a bunch of information and all the bullshit we do,
and we drink.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't allowed in high school, was it?
Yeah,
you don't know that.
Yeah,
I feel like I do, but
maybe I'm French.
Maybe I got held back a few years.
It's a lot of years. I'm pretty sure also at 21 they kick you out anyways. So
probably. You don't know that.
He doesn't. That is true. Unless Jeff was held back.
Hold back.
Are you talking from firsthand knowledge?
Nick, you knew me before I was 21. In my sophomore year of college.
This is accurate. Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah, Nick, what was your source?
I read Fatal Vows by Joseph Hosey. I just found this out from Adam. Apparently, it's a very unreliable book. So,
yeah.
At the time,
the holding back of the group.
It was 2008.
Yeah, at the time of its release, it was reliable.
So at no point you thought to check to see how reliable the book was.
Nick, was that my job?
I asked Nick, "What book did you read?"
Because I allowed you to choose from the books that were available. I chose mine because it's newspaper articles. You can't really I mean, yeah, the media lies a lot, but I mean, they're just telling what happened. I could have read the book written by Geraldo Rivera. That was my other option. Watch us do this entire podcast on Drew Peterson, and everything we say is wrong because we just all got shitty sources. Yeah, we just all got shitty sources.
I feel like my sources were good.
I'm pretty sure he sued people for less, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, he can have, yet again, like I said, he can have our $10 that we've made doing this podcast. So it's a worthy cause to basically make fun of this literal garbage human being. So
cool, dude. He's not. I don't know why I said that. He's really not.
And so for anyone who doesn't know about Drew Peterson, this entire story is as really one of the breaking points in the Chicagoland area for why everyone thinks police are corrupt and shitty. Like, this is one of the big stories that leads to that, because it's also true.
Yeah.
It does not paint the police in
So
the Chicago area.
my
police
book
well.
my book actually it's a weird format, but the author, when interviewed the police chief of Bolingbrook, he was talking to him as like, he's fucking pissed because whenever people think about Bolingbrook police, they just think about Drew Peterson.
I think that comes up a couple times in my book.
And the police chief is like, I wasn't here when I was a lieutenant. I was trying to get him fired for like 4 years. Why am I being yelled at?
Yeah.
So basically what I'm saying is feel free.
The corruption is like, he tried getting him fired for 4 years and it wouldn't work. So there's corruption.
Buddy, they tried to fire him
way
fucking before that.
Time. Yeah. No, yeah. I know. So my stuff never went into the police side of things, but they just was like, and this is what the police failed to do or did do and not well or ignored. And they just put it as like this is what they did.
I'm going to put this disclaimer here. Some of our shit might be wrong.
Yeah.
We all have some pretty old sources.
Yeah.
So
also, to be fair, in the defense of the police, not corruption, early like 2000s, like when these investigations were like 2004, early 2000s, modern policing was a clusterfuck because like DNA just started being implemented, fingerprint directories were just started, like an entire new wave of policing just got started.
New law was passed for this case.
Yeah. Like there's a reason a lot of shit got fucked up. It's not like malice behind the officers. It's just shit was wild.
So I say disclaimer, some of our shit may be wrong. We are still going to try to provide you good facts and a good podcast and story of this.
And at the end, we'll tell you why Drew Peterson is a unicorn.
Exactly. I'm holding you to that. You will
All
have
right.
to do that at the end.
That's fine. Part 1 or part 2?
Sure.
The end.
All right. The end. All right. Got it. We'll figure it out.
All right. So first, we're going to go into the fucking disappearance. So on Sunday,
this is something I should have asked before. Which one are we starting on?
Stacy.
The disappearance.
That's valid. Never mind. That's what I was about to say, which one, and then I'm like, you know what? Never mind.
The other one didn't really disappear.
She did for like a day.
What? Yeah, like 3 days.
Yeah.
Whoa! And they immediately said, like, oh, well, she didn't disappear. She just stayed put in one spot for a very long time.
She disappeared. Cop walks in. Found her. She's there. She's disappeared.
Cop didn't find her either. We'll get into it. Jesus
this
fuck.
is like
Stop throwing
this is like shutting a door and being like, Nick, you're on the other side of the door, and I shut the door. I'm like, Nick's disappeared. That's what you just did.
Yeah, I know. I forgot object permanence is a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like a 5-year-old.
All right. So
Gustav
this article is from Wednesday, October 31st, 2007. But obviously the disappearance happens days before that. On October 30th, authorities went to the Peterson household and searched for how do I want to word this? Hold on.
The potatoes?
Shut the fuck up. Jesus fuck. The Tuesday prior, authorities show up to search for Stacy Peterson, who is the mother of 2, who left home Sunday morning to meet with a relative and help rehab a home. Stacy Peterson at the time was 23 and was the wife of a Bolingbrook police sergeant who just never showed back up home. She was last dressed in a red jogging suit at around 10 a.m. on Sunday by her husband, Drew Peterson, who was 53 and a 29-year veteran of the Bolingbrook Police Department. He later heard from her by phone at 9 p.m. that night. If you guys want to go into any bullshit right now, fucking go ahead. I don't care. Just
okay.
I hate this dude. This dude is literally the biggest piece of shit. Go in whenever the fuck you want.
So I'm going to hold off on the age difference because I'm saving that for a little bit later.
30 years, 53 and 23.
I'm saving that for when we learn more information about his multiple wives. But I would like to point out he gave 2 completely different statements about Stacy's whereabouts
Yep.
in 2 separate occasions. So the first one, he claimed that she told him that morning that she was going to go to her I'm trying to read in my notes. She left to paint her brother's house, and she was going to be gone for a while. And then at some other point, he changed his story completely to that he had no idea where she was going, what she was doing. He saw her, she left, and then at some point she called him saying that she was leaving for the Caribbean with another man. And he did it in a way like you could have easily made those like one story, like, oh, she left to paint her brother's house and then she calls you later saying that. But no, he just said, completely changed his story, that they were 2 separate things.
So do we I'm trying, because this is kind of more freestyle, I'm gonna go into why that doesn't make sense, as to why she would never do that. Let's see. So Stacy's mom ran off when she was a kid, and that like completely fucked up her brother, who ended up going in and out of jail with drug and alcohol problems and everything. She also had 2 kids and 2 adopted kids, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't know if I know about the adopted kids, but yeah, we can get into that later.
We'll get into that later. It's not pertinent right now.
Yeah. So and everyone except for Drew swore up and down, because of what happened to her as a kid and how she loved the kids, she was also talking about leaving Drew and taking all of the kids. So that was never going to fly as an excuse.
Her family spent Sunday trying to reach her by phone. When they couldn't, they went to the Illinois State Police at 4 a.m. Monday to report her missing. According to the police, there were no signs of foul play, and that the investigators treated the disappearance as a missing persons case. Understandable.
Mm-hmm. Wow, the Bolingbrook Police Department did something right in this whole entire case.
At this time, they stated that Sergeant Peterson is cooperating fully with the state police, which is said by Lieutenant Ken Teeple, something like that. Who then added that Peterson is taking personal time to be with family. Obviously, he's distraught. So Stacy Peterson is Drew Peterson's 4th wife. His previous wife, Kathleen, is it Savio?
Savio.
So Kathleen Savio, who was 40 at the time, was found dead in an empty bathtub in her Bolingbrook home on March 1st, 2004.
Well before the disappearance.
Yeah.
Well,
over 3 years. And also maybe raises some concerns here, right?
Yeah, well,
he's had 4 wives. The 3rd one died. Not mysteriously, in a pretty toss-up way of how the fuck did she die. We'll get into that later also.
Okay.
I don't remember which wife. At some point,
I'll tell you.
One of the wives reported how he was quote cleaning his service gun and shot through the floor, and the shot landed
if you're wondering,
that's
a fun fact
either
quick.
Vicky or Savio.
So real quick fun fact,
that's how you clean a firearm.
Yeah, it's for people who don't know a lot about firearms, you don't clean them loaded.
Nope. That's actually how
the mag's not in it, and you make sure the chamber's fucking empty.
Well, and
that's a good way to kill yourself.
As someone who was military police and police, he should
29-year veteran.
He was in the military. I didn't.
He was military police. You know the video of Gerald Ford falling down the steps of Air Force One?
Yeah.
He was there.
Oh,
Drew Peterson was there
I didn't know that.
as military police. Yes. And
So-
apparently at the time, Drew Peterson did not help the president. He just looked at him and laughed.
A little bit more about Savio. At the inquest hearing, Will County coroner Patrick O'Neill said Savio drowned. Although the bathtub was dry, her hair was wet when she was discovered and her fingertips were wrinkled from being in water. Investigators speculated the water must have drained from the tub, and a coroner's jury ruled the death accidental.
Did your thing not talk about how there was a gash on the back of her head as
Yeah,
well?
we're getting there.
All right.
Yeah, that
I'm
comes
happy
later.
to
We'll
know
just get-
things, okay?
we'll get there. We can just go into it now. Yes,
Let
there is
Adam be
also-
included for the
there is
first time.
also is it at like the base of her, the back of her neck or something? It's like on the back of her head or something. There's like a 2-inch fucking gash.
Mine just said back of her head.
Yeah, so
So
there's
I
like a
didn't get
2-inch
detail on that, but there was
There's
a
a 2-inch gash. Also, yet again, heads up, I am reading pretty much verbatim what is just written down. I'm not putting it into my own words. I'm just reading it because this is well put together. So, yet again, everything I'm saying goes out to the Tribune files, the Chicago Tribune. So we also don't get sued for that. So the state police did end up investigating Savio's death, but no charges were filed. Also, we'll learn later that they literally did not investigate it, but we can get into that later. We're going to bring up someone Nick really wants to talk about, but we'll kind of bring him up throughout this. State's Attorney James Gaslow, who was not in office.
Like Scotland.
He was not in office at the time of this case, said on Tuesday, so 2 days after her disappearance, of Stacy's disappearance, that he wants to review the Savio file.
So one interesting thing that my book went into, when Stacy went missing, there were in the previous 4 years so to describe, because Adam and I are from this area, to describe the area of Bolingbrook is the large conglomerate that is referred to as the southwest suburbs. That is mostly DuPage, Will, and parts of Cook County. That aren't just straight Chicago.
and for people not in the Illinois area, you might hear us say Chicago a lot. So the Chicago suburbs
Are these counties?
it's
and-
actually, the suburbs are actually called Chicagoland, which gets shortened to Chicago a lot in
Yeah.
our area.
I live in Indiana, and I technically live in Chicagoland.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
If you
if you're within 45 minutes of Chicago, you live in Chicagoland, which is just the suburbs of Chicago, and there's a lot of towns, and they're all packed very tightly in, which is why we
Towns,
call it
villages, cities, whatever.
which is why we call it Chicagolands. And so you'll hear us say Chicago a lot because it's
the
Bolingbrook.
town I live in the spot I live in, if I walk 5 minutes in any direction, I'm in 3 different towns.
Yeah.
That is very true.
It's a very tightly packed area.
Yeah, and
So-
for anyone who's always wondered why people who don't live in Chicago say that they're from Chicago, that's why, because
People who actually live in Chicago get very angry when people like us say that.
yeah, but it's shorthand for
Yeah.
us. It's not, we're not living in Chicago. We're living in a shorthand version of Chicago.
So the best way it's been described to me was basically how news stations cover it. Chicago is Chicago, and then Chicago suburbs are any area within the radius of the bordering counties. That is the suburbs. After that, it's Chicagoland in whatever area gets the Chicago news, which is out to Rockford and into Indiana. Chicagoland is huge. Chicago suburbs is 5 different counties.
Hence why everyone thinks Illinois is just Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, because we all say that we're from Chicago.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Rockford's an hour and a half away from Chicago and is still
They
kind of
still-
Chicago. Yeah.
Some people say that they're from Chicago when you're in Rockford. Yep.
Yeah, and it's fucking stupid.
So
The original point I was getting to was at this time within the past 5 years, 5 or 6 wives and people had gone missing, suspected from spouses and other family members and stuff. And that was all of them got away with it. And it was all within the Chicagoland or the Chicago suburbs. It was all within like 10 miles of Bolingbrook. So therefore, Drew Peterson kind of, not only is he a cop, there are people who got away with it. Just completely, whole hog, got away with it. And why wouldn't he be able to, especially if he's a cop?
Yeah. So I'm going to read a quote here from Glasgow, whatever the fuck you want to call him. Glasgow. Okay, there we go. So I was not the state's attorney when this case was processed. So for purposes of the investigation, this is being relooked at because he thinks there's some foul play here, and definitely seems like it. He then declined to discuss what, if any, connection there might be between the Savio case and the search for Peterson, saying only that there are some unusual circumstances in the 2004 case.
James Glasgow, as Will County State's attorney, is still in office. And so he's been in office for well over 10 years.
Now, we put down the basis of the very start of things that happened. We're going to go a little bit farther back and talk about Drew Peterson's earlier life, not his like childhood, because I don't think any of us have any info on that, but we are going to talk about
probably wasn't good.
His earlier life and then his other marriages, because Stacy is number 4 and the third one died. So there's obviously things that happened in the first 2.
So when he was younger, he was just nowadays it's gross. Like, he was just a gross, womanizing human being. Back then, morally gray area. For the time that he grew up, the documentary I watched talked about how he would go up to really hot girls and say, and with a dime in his hand and say, or maybe a quarter, I bet you this quarter that I can't or that I can kiss you on the lips without touching you. And the girls would accept like this offer, like, because they're like, how can you kiss me on the lips without touching me? And they kiss them on the lips and give them the quarter. Like, that's just the kind of person he was, which back then was okay, but it's definitely not okay now. But yeah, and he would sleep around and was a gross personality. And that carried on. Like we talked a little bit earlier, how he was in military police. He was married to Carol. I don't have a whole lot about their marriage, except for reasons that ended. And
I'm literally looking for all that shit right now.
So
continue on.
So he essentially he was in military police and was married to Carol, left the military, joined law enforcement, and went undercover. And he was dressed as a hippie, buying and selling drugs as an undercover cop. And part of his ruse in doing all of that was he was womanizing. And apparently he used to make a joke that I have to lie to my girlfriend to go home and see my wife at the end of the day. And his wife did not know that he was cheating on her with a bunch of different girls while being undercover. And when she found out, that's why she wanted a divorce, was because he was a playboy.
One thing so when he was going undercover.
I do have a story from the second wife, so I don't know which one we're on right now.
But we're on one.
When he was going undercover, he would oftentimes pretend to be a dirty cop. The police chief, when Stacy was found, claims that it wasn't an act. He was a dirty cop, and there's a lot of evidence to back up that he was in fact not acting as a dirty cop. He
that
was an
he
actual
was.
dirty
So
cop,
there-
and he was trying to start up his own drug distribution side thing as
There's
a cop.
also a lot of from what I read, there was also a lot of like his coworkers who said he was the type of person that like when he wasn't doing that type of shit, he was just show up, get the job done, leave. Like he didn't care how the job got done or what he did. Like just show up, job get done, I leave. Which is not what you want in a cop.
Yeah. And so after his divorce from Carol, do we have anything else on Carol?
I don't.
That's all I got on her. She's pretty insignificant to the story.
Mhm.
Okay. So after Carol, he started dating a girl named Kyle Peary Morrison.
Mhm.
She was 20 years old and he was 27 years old. And he would take her to bars and get her drunk, which I now am questioning, like, why was he allowed to take like an underage girl to the bar, and did the bars just let it happen because he was a cop? Like, both things not okay things to do. And she told a story about how and they only dated while she was underage. Or not underage. She kept calling herself underage, but she was 20 the whole time. So not legally allowed to drink, but that's all they essentially do, is go to bars and get drunk. So when they would go to bars, one of the bars they went to had a wall of mirrors on the dance floor, and she would constantly catch him. They would go out on the dance floor to dance, and he would always want to be facing the mirror to stare at himself, because he was so in love with himself that he would dance with her watching himself in the mirrors.
So in the previous episode of Drunken Jurors, which you should go listen to, I discussed the psychological breakdown of what a psychopath, sociopath, a narcissist is. Drew Peterson is 100% a narcissist, a malignant narcissist nonetheless. He was in love with himself. He took advantage of people. He shows every sign in the book of what a narcissist is.
He fucking takes that ball and knocks it out of the park
Yeah.
every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
he was overbearing and just creepy. Like, he
and when he
essentially-
got a hold of like a woman, like good luck.
You
Like,
were
that was
property
it.
to him.
Yeah, that was
like
it.
you were just property. And she kept feeling uncomfortable with things he was doing and saying, and her family was feeling uncomfortable. And at certain points, police were being called on Drew, and they were just saying, "Oh well," and walking away. And that is really what's brought on the stigmatism of police protecting their own, and going, like, to some extent understandable, but in this, like, these situations where when you are being a creep and being a shitty human being and trying to protect your own, that also makes you a piece of shit as a police officer. And
no one hates dirty cops more than good cops.
True.
That's what it is.
And when she wanted to break up with him, him and all of his buddies at the station were writing parking tickets for her car and not leaving them on her car. Like, they were just writing a bunch of tickets randomly and then submitting them, and to the point that she had a warrant out for her arrest, because she had so many parking tickets that she was not parking illegally. Like, the parking tickets were not legal anyway, and she never saw any of these parking tickets until she had to go to court being arrested for having them.
Next, we got, his second wife, Vicky Connolly.
I just finished an entire bottle.
Which I would, at this point, I'd like to point out, how does Drew get such attractive girls to fall in love with him?
Narcissist.
Yeah. He has confidence.
Yeah.
But he was forcing Vicky to get married to him while she was still married. I said, when he gets a grip on him, good fucking luck. So Vicky was separated from her husband and wanted to marry Drew, but she wanted to wait until all the paperwork was done, just in case something happened and they couldn't get divorced by the date that they were told. And then Drew forced her to get married to him. I think it was 2 or 3 days before her divorce was finalized. Which, how is that legal, that you can get married without being divorced yet? Even if you're in the process of being divorced, how are you able to get married?
Could have been different counties. It could have been just a bunch of stuff. Could have been on a weekend where shit was weird. A lot of things could have been weird. Most likely different counties.
Okay.
Especially at that time, the internet wasn't really a thing. So documents had to be mailed.
Fun fact about marriage is whatever county you are getting married in, that you have your wedding, is the county you get, you sign your marriage license to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When Kristen and I get married, it will not be here. So we will literally get married in a random ass county. So second wife, Vicky Connolly. Fucking fun times. She said that during their marriage, Peterson had a very controlling personality and told her he could kill her and make it look like an accident. And he told her that multiple times.
One story I was that he told her that while he was kneeling on her, over her body with his knees to her arms, with a gun pointed at her head.
Yep.
Love. Love.
So as your residents, it's not as bad now. There is much better psychological testing to weed out people like this in law enforcement. It's not perfect. It's better. Needs to get even better to make sure that none of these people can be law enforcement. But it's better than it was.
She also told other Bolingbrook police officers that he told her this because she considered them friends. And the reason she did this was so that they would know he said these things to me. But apparently that meant nothing, as he still killed his third wife.
For fun.
She said Peterson would hit her, but not hard enough to go to the hospital and not often enough for her to expect it, which is not only physical abuse, that is some serious psychological shit too. She then stated that he has the experience, the knowledge, and the means and the mind to do all of that to a woman. Connolly was married to Peterson for 10 years, beginning in 1982. They raised each other's children from previous marriages. They operated a bar together, and she stuck by him through his infidelities and during legal problems he had in the 1980s, because yet again, he was a dirty cop. Yeah, he wasn't a clean cop. The reason she finally left him was because she caught him cheating on her. She saw it with her own eyes.
Mm-hmm. So I wrote down Drew started cheating on Vicky with Savio, his third wife.
Yep.
And I wrote
if I am correct, that's who she caught him cheating on her with, right? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And I wrote down, great, let's cheat again and lie about Vicky's heroin addiction and divorce, because Drew Peterson told Savio that his wife was abusive, had a heroin addiction, and that they were already filed for divorce, when in reality, Vicky was not abusive. She never did heroin, and they were still married and not separated at all. And
he lied about divorce proceedings several times.
Well, and
throughout everything.
I have a quote at this point. They popped in my my first documentary. They popped in this nice little soundbite from Kyle. And she said, one's not even out and he has another one ready to go. That he's just like, once he sees the writing on the wall of that he wants to get rid of this girl, he already is picking out his next girlfriend to bed.
So at this time, he was working undercover with a very reputable drug dealer who, probably where he became a dirty cop, but was a dirty cop. He was so controlling of her that he bugged their own house. He put a microphone in the kitchen and taped their conversations because he was cheating, but he didn't want her to cheat, so he had to make sure she wasn't.
Classic
they
psychopath.
And after, so Vicky and Drew owned a bar together.
Yeah.
And after Vicky had told Drew that she wanted a divorce, they were working at the bar together, and he told her that she could go home early, which is something that he never let her do. And on her way home, she found out that someone had cut her brakes.
I do remember that, yep.
And that was never investigated.
Remember, brakes always optional. All right.
Yeah. Somehow her brakes were cut, and no one investigated that. No one thought that was at all important to investigate why someone's brakes were cut in the first place.
Look, dude, brakes are optional. I was told I needed new brakes 10 months ago. All right. I'm still alive.
Do you remember in my Jeep when my brakes would grind because I had no pads left on them?
Yeah, I know. I drove your Jeep during those times. It was fucking terrifying.
Remember when the metal plate that goes on the back of your pads fell out from under my car because it had worn down so much?
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Good times.
Oh, it wasn't. I hated it.
I didn't brake that much.
You use the cars in front of you.
I walked everywhere, and then
that is true. That is fair.
It was a 3.5 hour drive that I don't have to brake through. That is fair. The entire thing.
That is a highway. Mostly valid. You know what? No, your terms are acceptable, young man.
So this happens 3 months after Stacy disappears. We'll get into the whole disappearance of Stacy, but I think before we go into that, you need to learn about the death of his third wife. So we're going to go into that now. All right. So 3 months after the disappearance of Stacy, authorities reopened the 4-year-old case of the death of Drew Peterson's third wife, Kathleen Savio. They ruled that as an accident, but with Stacy now disappearing, who is his fourth wife, makes things seem a little bit fucking odd. So maybe we should go back and look at this. On Thursday, November 8th, 2007, Will County Coroner Patrick O'Neill said late Wednesday he disagreed with the findings of an inquest that the 2004 death of Bolingbrook Police Sergeant's third wife was an accident. Don't know why, but he said in a written statement that the coroner's jury ruled Savio's death was an accident, but that he had concerns. It was my opinion that at the very least her death should have been ruled undetermined. Okay, so he also says he doesn't think it should be looked at again, but he wasn't 100% certain on his own fucking ruling of that, I guess. Older or previous descriptions of the scene said that the bathtub was dry, her hair was soaking wet, but the autopsy said that her hair was wet because of blood, which is because of the 1-inch laceration on the back of her head. And she also had bruises and shit all over her body. Her body had no drugs or alcohol found in the system. They said the cause of death was drowning and wrote that the laceration on the posterior scalp may have been related to the fall in which she struck her head. So somehow, before we get into this, explain to me how. So this would assume that she was getting into a bathtub that was filled with water, slipped, smacked her head hard enough to go unconscious, and drown in the water. I
Yep.
guess it's a possibility.
Yeah, honestly, that
is.
that, not jokingly, checks out to me. Like, I see it.
There's what is it?
But
There's
if
nothing
you-
like almost slipping in the bathtub to realize that you're just a sad sack of meat and bones.
So, with that said, why wouldn't the bathtub still be full when finding the body?
Evaporation.
Ah, yes, because that happens that fast.
Yes.
Well, and who's to say how?
And also, if I am correct, there was no blood like in the bathtub, like a
They
large
never-
amount.
They never.
You know,
said
you're
in my
asking a
thing.
lot of questions, Jeff.
Well, they never said in my the documentaries I watched about that, but
So, in
like,
my,
just in
I think
my
we'll get
head
into.
canon, it makes
If I am
sense.
correct, we'll get into it. But I think they do say because the bathtub is a part of evidence that they try to bring in, which we'll get into in the trial. That there's no like blood like residue from water being there and then the water draining and blood sitting on the bathtub. But we'll get into that. We'll see. So O'Neill also noted that in a recent state law allowing coroners to bypass the jury process were in place in 2004, the ruling would have been different. And he said he had every confidence the police agency, aka Illinois State Police, that investigated the case would present its reports with Will County State's Attorney's Office for review.
Why did they? So in 2004, they weren't allowed to bypass the jury process?
No.
What does the jury process have to do with determining cause of death?
That's kind of where I'm at, but I didn't know if you fucking understood it. So
No,
I guess.
but those are two completely separate things of the investigative process. One's not even investigative. What? Did like
So I don't know. We'll just move on. So Savio's family members were pretty fucking happy about the reopening, even though it includes them exhuming her body from the grave.
I mean, if they all thought, and once we get into their relationship, they have every right to think that Drew had something to do with her death. And like, I would,
I mean, we're
definitely
we're
say,
gonna,
yeah, pull out her body. Like, let's fucking go. Let's.
I'm gonna get into the abuse of her, but you go ahead and start with the whole start of their relationship if you have it.
Well, I just thought, like, just going on just Drew Peterson and how fucking weird he is, that
it's really
he
weird.
he proposed to Savio just while laying in bed.
Yep.
And put the ring on her finger, like
Laying down, both
Yeah.
of them laying down in bed.
laying down. He said, "Do you want?" And like, he forced the ring onto her finger and stuff. Like, it was like she really didn't have a choice.
So to be fair, that's probably how my dumbass would propose without forcing the ring, because that's weird. But I'd probably do something sporadic and
You do
stupid
seem like the
that.
type of person who would do it lazily.
It's not lazy. It's just, I'd
So
fucking
laying
doesn't
in
want-
bed and proposing
he
isn't lazy to
doesn't
you?
want to walk upstairs again, Jeff. He did it once. He hated it.
Yeah, thanks for doing that for my proposal, my guy.
You're welcome.
We'll make sure there's
I'm not
no.
doing it for my.
We'll make sure that at my wedding that we're not on an elevated platform,
Fucking
or
Adam.
we'll crane drop you onto it.
Fuck Christ.
Or we'll have.
the roof.
the
Of, the roof.
I think Adam's probably the next strong. We'll have Dalton or Adam, Dalton or Adam just carry you up.
But and then I noted, like,
Fucking bullshit.
so as like, before we get into the abuse that I don't what's her first name again? I just have her Savio. Yeah, okay,
Kathleen.
Kathleen. I typed all my notes on my phone and didn't want to type Kathleen over and over again, so I just typed Savio for everything. So
Mostly what I did.
so before we get into her abuse, I be like, even taking out the fact that she was killed, this is like, this poor woman is in the most abusive relationship. Like, I am sorry for the other two before her, this is the worst emotional and
This is like
physical
where he
and
got his
mental
confidence to
abuse.
really just fucking
Yeah.
go for it.
Like
yeah.
this is peak
Weren't
abusive
the
relationship.
other two wives like near his age? And like,
No.
Yeah, they were closer. But each time it seems like there's a bigger
how much
gap.
older was he than Savio?
So I don't have, but he's, oh no, I only have Stacy. But there is a joke in the documentary. They don't say how old some like Savio and Vicky are, but there is a joke that with every relationship he essentially lowers the age by 10 years.
Peterson was 49 and married.
No, that you're thinking Stacy.
Yep. Hold on. I'm looking here. Why did they not? I clicked on.
It's roughly 10
Oh, my
years.
bad. I'm sorry. I'm looking. Hold on.
So
she was. Why does it not give me their actual age? What the fuck?
Well,
I'm gonna let my dog in while you figure that out.
Well, I was like in the documentary, they said like with every relationship after Carol, he was essentially going 10 years wider in their age difference every time. Like it's like 5 years to 10 years at every relationship. So the girls are all staying the same age essentially. He's getting older.
Right.
Like he starts dating them all around their early 20s. And he was married to Savio for 10 years. And I think he was married to Vicky for like 8 or something like that. Like they're long relationships. Nick, you missed. I was saying like he starts dating all of these girls around 20-ish years old. Like in general,
I saw that.
She would have been so he was born in 54. Kathleen was born in 63, so she would have only been 10. Like 11 10 to 11 years younger, somewhere in there. Which or 9 to 10
isn't as gross.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say the movie Kathleen Savio is not white, but in the movie she is blonde hair, blue eyes, and white.
She's like extraordinarily Italian.
If you want to talk about whitewashing,
she's Sicilian.
This is the movie to watch.
Savio, I'm pretty sure Savio's a Sicilian name.
I've never seen a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white bitch with the last name Savio.
Maybe we shouldn't call her a white bitch. Like, throwing that one out there.
Well, again, this is the movie.
Adam,
she's not white, and the movie she was.
Adam out here being sympathetic to the victims.
I'm making fun of the movie.
Fucking
not Savio. I'm making fun of the
way to victim blame.
Hollywood blaming. Fuck
God,
Hollywood.
I never
whitewashing.
Adam, I thought more of you. I never thought you'd victim blame.
It's coming from the whitest Mexican.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
So in May of 1993, Savio was treated at a hospital for a head injury that she suffered. Allegedly, when her husband hit her head on the dining room table. December 2002, a copy of a Bolingbrook police dispatch report alleges that after quote unquote taking pictures at a wedding and drinking all night, end quote, the police officer came home and trashed their home, furious that his wife came home early to be with their young children rather than close a bar the couple owned. The report
he bought Vicky's shares of the bar, and he fully owns the bar.
So, like, I understand owning businesses. I understand passive income from shit like this. He had way too much money for all of like everything accounted for. Obviously, we've gone over how he's a dirty cop. Yeah. He had so much money for.
I mean, also,
so
cops in the Chicago area make a lot.
They do. Well, granted, it's expensive to live in the Chicago area. Also, Bolingbrook. I'm not certain about 2004. Right now, that is a very nice area.
Yeah, it's always been a nice area.
Yeah, like bowling. Adam and I know we live here. Bolingbrook is probably
It's very hoity-toity.
Top 3 neighborhoods in the area in Chicagoland, easily. With like Hinsdale and what?
If you walk through Bolingbrook, if like that is the town, if you want to think about a town that's just like rich white people, that's Bolingbrook. Like that's all it is rich white people.
I'd say probably top 3
It's
towns in the
probably
area.
like it's probably your lawyers and like doctors and shit.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Like top 3 areas in top 3 cities in the area are going to be Bolingbrook, Hinsdale, and like Skokie.
Like even the area, like there's really nice, like those kinds of areas of like Naperville. Also, Naperville can also be a shithole.
Yeah.
Same with
Bolingbrook's
Aurora.
just all nice.
Bolingbrook is just nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how the police were called from Savio on Drew 18 times for domestic abuse.
Yeah, that was
Nothing
cool.
was done.
Yeah. Lots of
Yeah.
times. And we never pinned this murder on him. Why? Or even investigated, really. As
Well,
we'll
I
get
mean,
into later.
the 18 domestic abuse calls were just turned away like they were nothing. So law enforcement, woo. Like
It's better now. I will keep
you tell that
shouting
to
this.
Savio.
Well,
You
hold
tell
on.
that to
So
Savio.
That was
after this December
20
2000,
years ago.
after this December 2002 incident where she hit her head on a table, quote unquote, the report noted that police responded and then stated female left residents to spend night at her sister's house. Problem solved. That is literally the quote: is female left residents to spend night at sister's house. Problem solved. End quote. Problem solved is in there.
Shit like this is why
Chicago
shit like-
police get a bad rap.
fucking say my fucking shit, Adam. Shit
No,
like
I'm
this.
cooler than you.
Fuck off. Shit like this is why in a lot of areas now, if there's a domestic, both parties are arrested.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that personally because that really kind of takes due process and throws it out the window. But it's also understandable to avoid shit like this.
It stops people from lying. Like it stops like the thing of like just being able to say it. And then it also stops something that's really happening at the same time.
It's a double-edged sword, which you can decide which side of the sword is worse.
It's good and bad.
Yeah, like that's up to you. I personally don't like it. But it also I understand why it because it gets rid of that clusterfuck of a mess where people are like, nothing happened.
I feel safer with it. Like if like not saying this has ever happened, but any girl could say I'm being abused and they will take her side. So both of us being arrested will hopefully stop that from happening. As a man, it could happen to me.
Do you have anything? Do you have more on any of the other abuses?
Like you said,
I do, but it comes after it comes after Stacy and him start seeing each other.
You said it might have been.
Okay, well, I think I'm about to bring that up, so this works out.
You said it might have been Kathleen that he fired a shot at through the floor.
It probably was given
everything. Yeah, fair enough.
So I didn't list the abuse that they said in the documentary. It's extensive and it's awful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We could probably make an entire episode just about their relationship and the abuse that she dealt with.
I don't know any of this. Adam, what's the worst abuse? Like what's one of the worst things that happened? Or not even the worst. Which ones that stand out to you? Mr. Non-law enforcement background. Which ones that stand out to you?
So I'll get to it in a bit because this is part of the crossing timelines thing where we haven't introduced Stacy yet, but this involves Stacy.
Make sure you reconnect it to this.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, in a November 2002 letter to Will County Assistant State's Attorney, Savio mentioned Peterson's relationship with his current wife. When I found out Mr. Peterson was having an affair with a minor, he began to get very violent, she wrote. There has been several times throughout my marriage with this man where I ended up in the emergency room in Bolingbrook for injuries, and I have reported this only to have police leave my home without filing any reports. Bolingbrook police officials issued a statement. Okay, yeah, this works. Bolingbrook police officials issued a statement this week when this happened. In our timeline of when this happened, they reported that they confirmed 18 domestic calls to the home, but said they always investigated fully. They also noted that they turned the Savio investigation over to the state police, as at this time they switched over Savio's investigation, reopened to the state police because they were dealing with Stacey Peterson's disappearance in the missing persons case.
So
Sorry, it's very hard to understand because we're jumping all over the place. This last part about Bolingbrook police officials issuing a statement about the 18 domestic calls happened at the current time that this happened, which would have been and let me find out here for you. Thursday, November 8th, 2007.
So Drew started dating Stacey while he was married to Savio when Stacey was 17 and Drew was 49.
yeah.
And Drew regularly, he had a guest bedroom in his basement. He would regularly bring Stacey over to his house that his wife and children were sleeping in to go to the basement and have sex with. Now,
Stacey at this time is 17 when they met.
Yeah,
I don't know if you said that. I wasn't paying attention, but okay.
So, and this is something. We're gonna cross into a weird area where Stacey, I have to taking Stacey's 17 and being molded by a 49-year-old and doesn't know any better because she's 17. At the same time, Stacey is doing some awful things that Stacey should also go to jail for. Regardless of her age, she should be in jail as well for things that she has done. This is a weird situation where she is a victim and not at the same time. So even as a 17-year-old though, fucking question the fact that you're going to his wife's house to have sex with him, with his wife and kids in the same house.
He is a police officer though, and I don't know. Maybe it's the whole pinning authority on her. I mean, we don't have any say because we don't have anything from Stacey.
Yeah. And I mean, throughout all this, God, fucking give me a
fun fact, real quick, so everyone knows. Stacey's body was never found, and obviously, even if it her body was found, she was never found alive. Her body wasn't found. She's still missing to this day.
I think we'll get into the comments.
Yeah, but just later just to say, like, this type of a thing we can't go back and refer to why she was seeing him while she was 17.
Yeah,
why maybe he did coerce her into coming to his house. But we have no idea about that.
Yeah, everything I'm saying, take into account. I'm coming at this with the brain of this is pre-missing, so her being missing does not go into my feelings on her at this moment. I am taking this one fact at a time. So I'm talking about how Stacey's a shitty person in this instance. I'm not victim blaming for her being a victim at this point. She's not a victim. So throughout this relationship that now Savio definitely wants to be divorced because she now knows that Drew and Stacey are together cheating on her in their own fucking house.
Dude, that's wild. Still,
there are Stacey is now on her fucking high horse over here. Stacey and Drew are both giving death threats to Savio. And Nick, this is the worst thing that happened to Savio. Both Stacey and Drew would beat Savio and drag her around the house by her hair.
I did not know Stacy was involved in that.
Yeah, Stacy was involved in that. According to my documentary, Stacy was involved in that.
All right. So
Is that from Drew though?
I don't know. The documentary just said it as if it was fact.
all right, yeah. So I'm going to
Because if
take
Drew
that,
said that,
I'm
then
taking
I don't
that
believe
with
it
a
at all.
hefty hunk of salt.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
saying
Because
this documentary said both of them were involved in that. It wasn't
Sources-
just Stacy. They're saying that both Drew and Stacy would do that together.
I feel like there's no way to know that without because the only people that
without
would know are
Stacy or Savio.
Savio is dead.
So-
Stacy is to this day still missing, quote unquote.
Even in my book, which was from 2008, there were talks about how Stacy, like in the weeks before she went missing, had said that I know that Drew killed Savio.
Yeah.
I know that he did it.
We'll get into that in the when we get into the
Yeah.
pre-trial, which will actually now be next episode. We get into the pre-trial. There's someone that Stacy confided in, which was a
It was one of their
cleric.
neighbors.
No, it was a cleric, a pastor who she said, I know he
And then
confessed that he
didn't
killed her.
Drew accuse them of having an affair.
That's a whole thing we'll get into in the next episode.
There's more. God, Drew's such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so apparently in some of these Savio apparently, it's in writing, predicted her own death almost word for word, or
Yeah.
like action for action what happened.
That it would
Based
look
on
like an accident. Yeah.
And based on what Drew had told her.
We'll talk about a little bit more next episode probably, but there when Savio or when the family tries to go into the house, they know that she has a journal, but the journal is never found. And they say that in that she, like Adam said, basically verbatim wrote how her death would be.
Yeah, it back just circle back to what Adam was saying about Stacy also beating Kathleen. In order to believe that, I would need to see. I'm not saying this evidence isn't real. I'm not saying that this evidence doesn't exist. I personally would need to see hefty evidence to support that in order to believe that, because
and he like did
Kathleen
most of this
was
without,
like 5'2", 90 pounds or some shit like that.
like
They were all small. All of his
Yeah.
wives were.
well, they gotta be easy to control physically and
Mm.
mentally.
Fair enough.
But like his kids did not know a lot of things because they were just kept in the dark of it. Like Drew was smart and kept the abuse behind closed doors to where his kids did not know.
I mean, yeah. Fucking Kathleen's sister even told, like, the coroner's jury in 2004 that Kathleen believed something would happen to her, and that the death would look like an accident. This technically doesn't count because hearsay is not allowed yet. But as we'll get into with the pretrial, hearsay is the whole thing on this because that law came into place months before this whole fucking thing happened, or months before the entire trial started.
Anyway, so I think it is fucking awful and terrible how much power this piece of shit has, because so after Savio was supposed to pick up, first they lived like 4 houses down from each other or something, like it wasn't that far away. And because this is after Drew and Stacy have been married, Savio and him are divorced. Like this is time after. Savio was supposed to pick up their kids from Drew, and she never did. So a few days later, Drew went over to her house and she wasn't answering or anything. So he went to the next door neighbor and ordered him to come back to the house with him, and then got a locksmith and hired a locksmith
Yeah, I
to
remember
go
reading
open
that. Yeah.
her house. how is this at all legal, and how is this never brought up that he forcefully entered her home? Like, granted, she was dead, but there was no warrant. He was off the clock. He ordered the neighbors to come with him and just hired a locksmith to open up her door. It wasn't like his kids were in danger. He had his kids.
That is a lot of.
Does he technically still own the house?
It did not say.
Because if he technically still owns the house, then he is allowed to get a locksmith to allow him in.
That I'll accept that. But the way that was portrayed in the documentary, they kept saying it was Savio's
I'm not saying
house.
that's true.
Send me
I'm
the
not
documentary. I need to see this documentary.
So
Well,
I'm not saying
biography.com, Drew Peterson.
So I'm not saying that it is true that he like still owned the house, but if he did, technically he could get a locksmith and get in.
If he did, I'm accepting of this. If he didn't, how the fuck was this allowed? Like, what the fuck? And so he essentially broke into her house. And he ordered the neighbor, like, told neighbors, you go there, and like full on, like,
It allowed him to search
police
the
it.
house, the places that he needed to search.
Yeah. And sent everyone on their way. And it was one of the neighbors who walked into I think it was pretty sure it was the master bathroom. And they walked in and found Stacy's dead body.
Because her husband and or her kids were searching like the basement. Drew was searching like a certain section of the house also, and she's the one that found.
I could also see Drew
Savio.
being like, if he did murder her, is it like he did murder her, or is it still kind of like, are we in a weird state of like it's still?
So everything in that is hearsay. So he was charged.
Okay, so if
but
he
it
did,
was like all right, Nick. Like he was charged with her murder, but it was all like hearsay evidence, right?
For Kathleen.
Yeah.
And this was it. He wasn't charged in 2004. He wasn't charged until
2000.
I'm saying in general,
after 2012.
I'm trying to figure out if he did kill her or when he killed her. I'm trying to figure out which to say.
So he has been convicted of the murder of Kathleen Savio. So he has, according to the eyes of the law, killed her.
Okay. So
we say if with Stacy, we say has with Kathleen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he killed her. He's ordering people around. Definitely doesn't want to be the one to find the body.
Yeah.
And I could just see him just being like, I'm gonna go search over here, and then just standing in that room with his arms crossed, like checking his watch, like, all right, a few minutes has passed. I'm gonna go move to a different room so it looks like I'm checking things when I know what the fuck is happening. Because if she's in the house by herself for days on end, he had time to get anything out of the way that he had more than enough time to clean up after himself. This isn't like Chris Watts rushing to do it the night of, like.
So a reason he might have killed her is that she had a life insurance policy for over $1 million in her name, and her sons were beneficiaries of that. And she would have received their $300,000 home in the divorce settlement. Possible reasoning.
Houses in Bolingbrook are very nice.
Yeah. Doubts that it was an accident was
I could see it being an act, like being her slipping and falling and doing it. Also, the hearsay against that is extreme.
So James goes on to say that I had some doubts as to what happened because the pictures that we did see, the tub was empty, but there was all kinds of blood still in the tub and around the drain in the rim of the tub.
Wasn't his alibi Stacy?
I think so.
Yes, and
she's now missing. In Cancun with a man.
Caribbean.
He said that
I'm being sarcastic for the record of the podcast audience.
But I mean, I know the documentary talked about how he told a bunch of things to Stacy, but she was his wife, so she didn't have to testify.
That is true. That's still a weird law to me. Is that
I-
weird? Is that
I
just
mean-
is that weird to me, or is that
About
weird
what?
to anyone? Like where you can't testify against your spouse? Is that just me? That's weird, right?
I think it's saving because
Yeah.
people know that you're gonna lie anyway.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna try and do everything in your power to
Well, you got
protect
the Fifth
them.
Amendment for that.
So
It's like
James
one of those
also
old English laws that don't make sense to me.
Oh no, it's like telling me, an atheist, to put my hands in the Bible and swear to God that I'm not gonna lie in court.
Well, you can do the Constitution. Shut up. And shut your fucking whore mouth. Fucking blasphemer. Fucking God. If I see you in the afterlife, I'm gonna be angry.
so James also says
I hope I'm in heaven and you're in purgatory.
I have many questions for the higher ups.
So James said, I thought in the back of my mind that if there was water in the tub that would have probably diluted some of the blood and the blood would have gone out with it. But as we looked at pictures, there's still a lot of blood inside the tub. So everyone's starting to doubt that it was an accident. And there's also some witnesses to Savio's will. Steve Carcerano, who is the neighbor that discovered her body, he testified that when he left out, sorry,
I'm out of alcohol and I'm sad.
I guess that's the extent of it, is that she did have, sorry. So Stacy also had a witness to her will, and that witness is also the same person that was brought to the house to find her body, not brought to the house to find her body, but was brought to the house.
Essentially brought to the
Ended up-
house to find her body.
Essentially, yeah. But that's
You
basically
said Stacy. I think you meant Kathleen.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, Savio.
Yeah.
That's where we'll leave it for this. Anything I find throughout before the next episode, we'll just throw in the next episode to switch things and fact check. I'll also try to fact check everything as I edit, but we'll see how that goes.
I'm gonna try and watch this documentary to answer Adam's questions about things.
It's only 45 minutes. It's not bad.
Yeah.
So-
Well, you know what?
It's actually very interesting.
Probably. Yeah.
It's
I'm a nerd.
the other one was an hour 15 and not that interesting.
So thank you everyone for listening to our part 1 of Drew Peterson and its sporadic craziness that is just this entire fucking case and us trying to piece it together. We'll get into more of it in part 2. We'll go into Stacy's appearance and then hopefully the trial, the pre-trial, the trial, all the really good stuff that happens before the pre-trial. We'll get into all of it. We'll get into the nitty-gritty. Don't worry, you'll get all the aspects of this that we can give you, and we'll try to fact check ourselves as we go.
If you have any,
But we are drunks as we do this. So
yes. If you have any ideas of someone we can cover for a murder, because we're kind of
I refuse to cover people for murders.
that's
Cover
true.
murders.
I
Well,
will
yeah.
never.
No, we would never do that at all, ever, for legal reasons. But if you have someone who's committed
Nink wicks
murder,
at camera.
if you have someone who
We should
has
cover
committed a murder and you'd like us to talk about
a case.
hit us
You
up.
can
Yeah,
call
a
it a
case.
case.
Yeah, a case. Yeah, that thing. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not drunk. Send us that name and we'll do things about it and play with ourselves.
Hopefully better than this one, because this is, for me, my brain as I'm drunk and at the end of this, it is sporadic, and I know editing this is gonna kill me. But we'll rebound. We'll make part 2 fucking great. If you want to find us on social media and on podcasting platforms, our link tree is in the description. You click on that, it'll give you the link to everything, all of our social medias, everywhere we're on podcasting platforms, and our Podbean. And if you click on our Podbean, in the upper right hand corner is become a patron. You click on that, you pay a certain amount of money, you get some fantastical
testicular.
words are hard. You get some
Fantasticular torsion.
You get fun stuff.
Torsion.
Without torsion. You get fun stuff. You pay us money, you get more content. At $3 tier, you get unedited. $1 tier,
And torsion if you want it.
No.
No. all
Then that's from Nick specifically. We'll put that at a tier.
I'll add it.
right. we'll add a torsion. tier.
$1, you'll get some Taskmaster special that we did at the beginning of the year that I don't remember and I still haven't watched back. But I know I
wild.
didn't win. I didn't win it, and I don't fucking care anymore. But you can watch that and find out who won for yourself.
As someone who edited it, it was fucking insane.
And I mean, after that, thank
We
you,
should
and I
watch that as a
appreciate
movie
you.
night.
Thank you,
It's a 3-hour movie now.
thank you, Nick. What the fuck you gotta say?
In order to
Oh yeah, we're doing this bit again.
Oh, I did it already?
Yeah, this
Wait,
is
when did-
yeah. You've done this a couple times
Oh.
We'll do it
on
together.
Drunken Jurors, specifically words. Specifically.
in order to watch me chug the rest of this mead, you need to pay us how much do they need to pay us?
$3.
$3.
$3 a month in order to see me chug a lot of mead. But you know,
We like to drink with Nick, because Nick is our mate. And when we drink with Nick, he gets it down in 8, 7. Well, that was Santa.
Just like this fucking episode. Thanks, we appreciate you.
I'm scared.